Hello, in this chapter of the Pathways Guidebook, we're going to talk about the must-do steps. Right now we're going to look at legal. You know, as much as we all hate to admit it, none of us want to come to terms with our own mortality. And it's not necessarily the easiest or most pleasant conversation, but as someone recently said, we all have an expiration date. I think what's a really important thing to do is get your legal affairs in order. And we're going to talk about estate planning. So for those of you who first off are going to say to me, oh, well, we don't have an estate, we're not wealthy. Every person has an estate. Whether your estate is valued at $100 or $1 million, you have an estate. And that is anything you own, whether it's a car, a home, a boat. Maybe you don't own your home, but you own cars, but you have some assets. And so it's real important that you get all of this together in an orderly fashion, in a legal fashion. Why am I talking about this? There will come a time when your loved one cannot make decisions with you as a couple or on their own. So a power of attorney is going to be very important. Let me dispel a very terrible myth. Married couples don't have to do this. We're married couples. If my wife wants to make those decisions for me, she can, and vice versa, my husband. That is not accurate information. So, whether you're married or single, you need to have power of attorney. And in your case, you want to have power of attorney for your loved one. Now, if you're caring for a parent or a good friend, you want to have power of attorney to take care of their financial needs and also their medical needs. And we're going to talk about medical in just a moment. Going to see an attorney, an estate planning attorney is what I would recommend, someone who understands those particular laws and helps you, takes you step by step through the process. I've got a whole chapter on this. It's going to explain to you about simple wills. It's going to talk about what's called pour-over wills, simple trusts, and so forth. All of this information was prepared for me by two attorneys who specialize in this field. So they're giving you very accurate information. As much as I would personally recommend seeing an attorney, if you want to do it on your own, you can go online, and I've given you some resources to go to. For estate attorneys, you can find a lot of things, something called LegalZoom.com, for example. You simply download the forms you want, you pay for those forms, and you fill them out and complete them. But you do have to have them notarized. Very important. Even if you choose to write everything by hand without any legal forms, they're only going to be valid and really protect you if they're notarized. And you can go do that at a bank. You can also sometimes find that at your senior center, the hub notaries. So again, getting your legal affairs in order. Let me just explain very briefly why it's important that you have a power of attorney for your husband or your wife, your mother, your father, your sister, whomever you're taking care of. Without that documentation, you may not make decisions on their behalf. And especially once that person has been officially, formally diagnosed with a dementia or Alzheimer's, all bets are off. Okay? So it's very important that you take this step early. And let's also be very frank here. People get into car accidents, airplane accidents, train accidents. They fall off steps going out their back door. And it puts them in a state of incapacitation where they need somebody to step in and help them. So I'm not going to suggest that you wait until you have a trauma in your life, like the diagnosis of Alzheimer's or dementia, to have all of this addressed. Look at it in a very practical way. Okay? Take a look at it and take some action. The next thing I want to talk to you about, very, very important, Advanced Healthcare Directive. This is a legal document that will see that what your loved one's position is, the way they want to be cared for to the end of their life, is in fact put in place. I know a lot of people will say, I have a living will. People will say, I have a do not resuscitate. An order for do not resuscitate, which means I don't want any heroics. I'm going to tell you right now from my own personal experience, which is staggering of having an advanced health care directive in my hand and having to fight with the doctor in ICU to not give my father further care. So living will and do not resuscitate are all very important, but having this all combined into an advanced health care directive is critical. Your life matters till your very last breath. And it's important that you share with your loved one just exactly what your wishes are. It doesn't have to be discussed and negotiated. If that's what you want, you write it out, you have it notarized, and you see to it that it is then put into place. All of these forms are kept on file with your doctor's office, with your attorneys in the hospitals, so that they can be put into place. It's a very strong advocate for these particular documents. I'd also like to point out one of the books that I recommend. It's called Sooner or Later, Restoring Sanity to Your End-of-Life Care Choices. This book was written by a nurse who spent over 20 years caring for people at the end-of-life stages. So it's written from a perspective of having seen what can happen when people don't put things in place. And actually this nurse was very specific and gives you a lot of really good tools on what to ask for, and explains what these different conditions might be, or a J tube might be, which you and I don't know anything about. But Damiano was terrific in putting that in this book and explaining, you want this until this happens. You want this until this happens. You know, it's rather selfish to decide that you don't want to make any decisions. You're going to leave that to your loved ones to do. Because the truth is, they're going to do what they really think you want. So let's just put the cards on the table and take care of it. Take a look at that book, check it out at the library, go online, see if you can find it. The other thing you can find online are Advanced Healthcare Directive forms. There's an organization called 5 Wishes. You can download that free of charge, fill it out, have it notarized, see that everybody that you want to have it has a copy of all of this. So those are the areas we're going to talk about in the must-do steps for your legal future plans and needs. We're also going to take a look at records. Record keeping is very important, but it's more important now than ever. You need to complete a complete medical history. Just write it out, document. I don't care if you use loose leaf paper. You don't need to worry about finding the appropriate form. Write out what your background is. Have copies of your medical history as much as you can, and also put down there exactly where your doctors are, who they are, and where other information can be found. You need to have a log of all of your current medications, and that's going to be an ever-changing situation. But having that log and maintaining it will be very helpful in the care, arranging the care for your loved one. I've got a complete checklist here for you to follow. I strongly recommend that you put all of this information down. And let me also dispel another myth, that you're going to be there for your loved one when they need anything, when anything happens. Well, you know what, folks, sometimes that's just not the case. Perhaps you've gone out of town, or maybe you have a medical issue, and that's a priority right now, and somebody else has to step in. Do your children or other family members know where all your papers are? Do they know what your plans are for your loved one who has the dementia or Alzheimer's? Having them all in a nice record-keeping book is the answer to solve all of those problems, okay? So take a very good look at all of these areas that we cover in this section. I've also included a complete glossary of the terms that you're going to hear about, whether you hear about them here in this chapter, or if you see them online, or when you talk to an attorney, they bring them up. I want you to be fully informed. So take a look at all of this information. Remember, I spent 3 years putting this together based on my own experience. I don't want you to have to replicate what I've already lived through. Once was enough. Take my word for it, okay? And if you have any other questions that you want to discuss one-on-one, please, I invite you to visit our website, www.dementiahelpcenter.com, and just go to the one-on-one link, click it. You'll find my direct email or my phone number. I'd be more than happy to help you and speak directly with you. Thank you.